Here in studio with us today is Luis Benitez, and I want to get this title right because it's the first time I've really heard this, the Colorado Outdoor Recreation Industry Office.
Very good.
The executive director of that office.
Yes.
So I think the first question everyone's thinking is, what the heck is that office?
That's a really good question. So ultimately, I think the office is a reflection of just how deep and wide the outdoor industry is to our culture and to our economy. So if you look at any of the other big economic drivers in Colorado, things like aerospace, agriculture, tourism, the outdoor industry is clearly a significant driver that should be given oversight at the same level.
Not many states have this position.
No, there's currently 3 states that have a full-time position, and there are 4 other states that are currently coming online. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see more and more states that have a portion of their economy and their ecosystem based in the outdoor industry having a role like mine.
Well, it's a good thing you're starting slow and not making waves by getting this outdoor retailer, the multiple shows from the outdoor retailer. Why is getting these different events such a big deal for Colorado?
You know, I think it's a big credit to Governor Hickenlooper and his strategy around seeing the outdoor industry as a significant driver to our culture and to our economy. These shows are not just what you would think of as a typical trade show. They represent our political voice. Significant policy decisions are made at these shows, and they also represent the voice of our industry and our culture when it comes to things like climate shift, public lands. All of these things are discussed at a very high level at these shows. So to be able to align that magic of who we are as a state with the passion around the industry is a pretty special opportunity.
Well, I want to come back to that, but first, these are not open to the public shows currently.
They're not. They're not currently open to the public because a significant amount of business is done at these shows. So when you think of all of the iconic brands that you're familiar with across the country, really, think of Patagonia, North Face, any of those larger brands, but then also think of the small specialty retailers and the individual brands of companies like we have here in Colorado. All of those folks gather at these shows to focus on commerce first. But the reality is for the outdoor industry, especially in today's age, is that it's much more than just commerce. So getting back to those policy meetings and a lot of those other ancillary meetings that happen around these shows, that's why for now it's just invite only.
So the fact that it's here from a person who lives here or just the general public, why should I care about the event itself? Fair
question. You know, I think ultimately some of the things that come along with these shows are what we feel like everyone should be really getting excited about. A lot of the times what you see in shows like this is all of the participants start to get excited about the location. So when you think about what happened in Utah over the past 20 years and you think about how Ogden developed, Ogden's just outside of Salt Lake City, but yet over the past 20 years, a significant amount of outdoor industry brands have chosen to relocate to that town, bring their workforce, their products, and their passion to that space because of the gravitational pull that these shows create. So I think the reason why folks should get excited is because you're going to see a lot more innovation and a lot more opportunity within the outdoor industry space just because these shows are here.
Well, I know in the announcement everybody in the state was excited because of what it could bring financially to the state. Outside of the retailers staying in hotels and buying food at our restaurants, where else does money from an event like this come from?
You know, the other thing that I think is important to realize from a fiscal perspective for these shows is that there tends to be a lot of regional partnerships that get activated because of it. So significant initiatives that are happening with the Outdoor Industry Association, which is actually a trade organization based here in Boulder, and they're somewhat of the managing partner for the show. They'll put forth initiatives like getting kids outdoors. So how do you get 4th graders? Every 4th grader on the planet, literally outside. So these are some really bold initiatives that we'll start to see. And so I think money will be spent not only for conservation stewardship efforts, but also efforts like that to really get the public more engaged with being outside.
You talked about this being a political event and some changes happening from meetings that take place and policy changes. Colorado is very outdoorsy, but we're also an oil and gas state. How will that play with this convention?
You know, I think it's incredibly important to understand that we are a blended economy, and I think that's something that Governor Hickenlooper and Colorado does really well. The reality is that one side needs the other, and I think the difference in Colorado when compared to other states is that we're willing to have that collaborative conversation. Oftentimes you see lines of polarization being drawn significantly over and over again, but as an oil and gas friend of mine who's an engineer said, says, you know, we recreate too. I own the same mountain bike that you do. I go climbing in the same place that you do. Why is our voice not valued as a part of the conversation? And what we're really hoping to do, because there's this opportunity for a larger conversation, is to start to invite some of those key stakeholders to this process so we can really talk about what a future state collectively could look like.
I'm going to take exception. We don't climb in the same places. How many times have you summited Everest?
6 times.
Yeah, I've only 5.
That's
Sorry
good. You've done your homework. All right.
Luis Benitez, thanks for joining us and introducing the states of what this office that you run is all about.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll have you soon.